seated. Thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
I'm here.
Yep.
Can't get my, there. I'm here.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Coulter?
My mic is not working.
Mr. Lovett?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mrs. Knight? Here. Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Perfect. Approval of our minutes from our September 12th regular council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, those stand as written and distributed. Reports and communication, Mayor Hardman.
Thank you. I would like to start my report by inviting up a good friend of ours, somebody many of you should know, our former law director, Mr. Tom Keating, and Lori Briggs-Lehman, who have a presentation that they would like to make to the city. Tom.
Thank you very much. The sound system sounds great, by the way. And also, I'm sorry I don't have a bottle of wine to give to anybody today.
Really?
I did that. I'm sorry. Well, I'll think of some excuse. But I do have something to give, and it's a message. And it's one of the most important things I've ever done as a lawyer. And it's one of the most unique, incredible stories I've ever heard. So I'm really, really honored to be able to present this story tonight. The story starts back in December of 2012, and there was a serious injury at a home in Sharonville, up on LJ, right off of the creek, you know, the street. And a gentleman named Paul Lehman, who was a 73-year-old man, was seriously injured, had a head injury. He had been suffering from memory loss and dementia before this, but this injury was a very serious injury. The perpetrator of the crime was Paul's 52-year-old son, Bradley. Bradley lived with Paul up in the home on LJ. Now, Bradley had suffered from mental illness for many years, and it was an unfortunate situation where Paul's memory loss was getting worse and Brad's mental health problems were getting worse at the same time. And it exploded one night with this injury. So, of course, the squad and the police were called. Paul was taken to the emergency room, went into intensive care, and was treated for his head injury. Brad was arrested, taken into the justice system, and went to a psychiatric hospital and was evaluated for several weeks. And the story could end right there because the police had done what they can to help the victim. They had taken the suspect and put him into custody. And they could have just said, that's it. But there was Lori. Lori Lehman Briggs is the sister of Brad, the daughter of Paul. Lori lived in Florida, 1,000 miles away. And so the police department, instead of just closing the book, they reached out their hand and they helped Lori through all of the challenges. Her father's in the hospital, her brother's in psychiatric jail, and what is she supposed to do? There's a house, there's decisions, there's nursing decisions, there's medical decisions, there's legal decisions, what to do. The Sharonville Police Department, through the Community Services section, specifically Officer Cheryl Price, and under the leadership of then head of the department, Jim Nesbitt, now chief, they reached out to Lori and gave her all of the care, comfort, support, knowledge. They kept her informed of everything. They helped her. They called her repeatedly and made sure she knew that she was thought of and cared for, and that she had a friend and somebody that she could rely on. And that meant so much to her 11 years ago that she not only never forgot it, but it grew and grew within her as something that she would forever appreciate. And she always wished that there was a way that this kind of a treatment could be passed on to other people in Sharonville that have problems with mental illness, problems with injuries like that. So Paul, after he got over as much as he could his head injury, found a very nice nursing home, Mason Christian Village, and he lived there for 8 more years. He died in 2020. Brad, through the behavioral health system and the criminal justice system, was located in a very nice retirement home that was secure. And and he lived out at Salem Woods. He unfortunately died just this past March, and when he died, he was age 63. So Lori has decided now that both her father and her brother have passed away. And by the way, I had done legal work for Paul for years, and he knew he was starting to decline, so he wanted me to help set up a will and a trust for him. So I knew Paul pretty well. In fact, I used to see him up at the rec center. He would work out up there, and occasionally Brad would work out with him because they were living together. But Paul had always said he never wanted to give up on Brad, ever. Even though Brad was getting worse medically, Paul didn't want to give up on him. So he had some provisions to help him in a trust that he had for Brad. So now that Brad has passed away, Lori, as I say, has now lost her father and her brother, and she wants to do something to thank the city of Sharonville and the police department for the incredible kindness and caring that they showed to her all those years. And so now she has decided that the best way to do it would be to make a gift to the city of Sharonville. So she has today is going to present the city police department with a check for $50,000. And her hope is that this gift will allow the city to get further professional training for the police so that they can help even more with people with medical and mental and autistic and dementia and other problems, so that the community can be ahead of the system and be aware of these things that occur. So that's her wish, and we've been in discussions with Chief Nesbitt and Safety Service Director Jim Lucas, and that's the kind of a way that this gift is going to be used. So I'd like to ask Lori Lehman Briggs to come up, and she and I will present this check to the city. And thank you, Chief Nesbitt.
Thank you very much. We learned a lot in working with the Lamans and how to better deliver services and how important and ineffective some of the things that we did were. And we grew a lot as a department, and Officer Price gets a lot of credit for that growth. As a result, we pursued grant funding later that helped us deliver and develop better services and baseline so we can help our law enforcement community as a whole. And we're going to do more of that good work and continue to raise the performance level of our department and set an example for others using this generous contribution. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to our community. My family, too, struggles with mental health, and it impacts a lot of us in many different ways. It's gifts like this that help us ensure a better service to our community as a whole, and we're very grateful. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the city, Lori, thank you very much for this generous donation. I know our police department doesn't do this with these kind of expectations coming out of it, so it is especially, we're very grateful for the fact that you're able to do that to help us continue to improve upon things that I think we do well, and we can always do better. So thank you very much. If it's not too much, I know all of these folks like to personally shake hands and congratulate you. So if I can bring you up one more time and run the gamut, because I'm sure all of these folks up here would like to shake your hand and thank you.
Lori brought her husband, Darwin, and her daughter, Katie. And this is Sue Zimmerman, who's been with our office for many years, handling the probate and those types of things. Sue is retired. She wanted to come here in honor of Lori and her family.
Oh, nice. It's okay.
Come back anytime.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you, very special. You're fine, honey. I kind of want to hug you instead of shake your hand. I'm the hugger in the group.
Thank you. Thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you very much.
What's that? Bring wine, right? Yeah, well, this'll do. This'll do. We will,
That's, we're not going, yes. Yeah,
no offense taken.
Please.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
That,
Enjoy your retirement.
and, you know, there's nothing I can add to top that. So that's all I have for a report tonight, unless anyone has any questions for me. So.
Okay, we'll move on to our Safety Service Director, Mr. Lucas.
Thank you. A few things before the legislation. For those who are not on social media, I just wanted to share that Third Eye Brewery attended the Great American Beer Festival last weekend in Denver, and did very well for themselves. Not only did they win a gold medal for their Chai Eye Captain Urban Spice Beer, a gold medal for their Double Astral Chocolate Beer, and a silver medal for their Pumpkin Beer, but they were also named Brewery of the Year in the category between 1,000 and 2,000 barrels. So in Denver, Colorado, Third Eye Brewery is getting recognized as the best brewery perhaps in the nation in that category. So kudos to them. Speaking of awards, Public Works employees participated in the, I think we say this every year, in the snowplow rodeo.
Rodeo?
It's becoming an annual thing, right? So Hamilton County recently had their event with 52 drivers representing 7 municipalities throughout the county. And once again, Sharonville took home 3 of the top 4 spots, with Matt Baum coming in first, John Schroeder in second, and Jason Beatty in fourth. So they'll be moving on. I think all 3 of them, no, but Matt Baum, John Schroeder, and Josh Powers will be representing Sharonville in the Southwest Ohio. Steve, do you have anything else to add to that, or, like I said, we
They're great crews, why our roads look so well, so good in the wintertime.
I heard you were going to be a rodeo clown this year. Is that right? is that the, no?
Those drivers are good until they see me out.
And then before the legislation, one more item, just a reminder for those who RSVP'd to the Veterans Breakfast this Saturday at 9 o'clock. So, moving into the legislation, Scott is here to talk about Ordinance 2023-55E, which is amending appropriations.
Good evening. Sorry for the casual attire. I came straight from the tennis courts. My daughter, their league championship was today, and they took first place in first doubles. So
Congratulations.
it was a big dad day. So,
Yeah.
Ordinance 2023-55. This amends appropriations and authorizes the advance of funds. This all relates to the ARPA grant for first responders, police, and fire. It's being administered by the Ohio EMA. We appropriated a little bit of money for the wellness portion of that. here recently. We've been very active in the police and the fire form of that grant since the first of the year. Reimbursements on that have taken longer to get. We actually submitted the police portion of the grant in the first quarter for kind of response. We got some feedback where they wanted some more detail. Some of that was a little nuisance. And by the time we got that resubmitted, kind of the avalanche of requests have come in, and Ohio EMA is very underwater in kind of processing these. So the amounts requested will get us through the end of the year and into early next year, which at that point we really hope to get these kind of pushed through and get our reimbursements rolling on those. So, any questions?
Any questions, Bailey?
All right.
Thank you.
Is ordinance 2023-57E, is that?
It is up for a second and third reading. I know Chief Nesbitt was going to say a few words about,
Okay.
but he's not, I don't know if he's still here or if he's.
He's occupied, so I will speak on our behalf on that one. We prepared this grant. This is for 1 year's portion of a block safety contract. We were able to lock in some pricing if we signed this here by the end of the year. And this is actually expanding the volume of cameras.
By 12.
By 12, yes. So this will ramp up. I know he's had a lot of success. I can't speak to detail, but with this program, they've really liked those. So this will lock in that contract rate and expand the cameras that we have online.
There is a visual of where the cameras will be placed in your council packet. Chief Nesbitt, I know, is going to talk about the reasoning behind all of them, but they're basically at the major areas of town where we may have current cameras, but because cameras only have a certain range of coverage, additional cameras were needed to get the whole width of the roadway. And then some new strategic locations across the city as well. Chief, do you want to talk about your flock camera safety location? Just why you chose the locations to expand by 12, where, and because I know you wanted to say a few words on that.
So we've had great results with our flock cameras, and we're sharing that with other departments as well. They're seeing likewise. What we wanted to do with the 12 new locations is focus on high traffic areas and routes that, based on intel that we get from our activity levels, where are the criminals and where do they go? So we want to use cameras to lock in that information so it has the greatest potential for an investigative tool for us. So those 12 new locations will include really capturing the area of Mosteller and 275. It will help us capture some considerable amount of data on 42. It will also allow us to get some of the downtown area, which is valuable because that's the gateway in and out of Sharonville from the south. So that's pretty much the 12 cameras.
Are there any questions? Thank you.
Chief Sunderman's here to talk about ordinance 2023-60E regarding a very unique piece of equipment that could be donated to us if council approves this evening.
Yes, of all the random emails that come across the fire chief's computer, this was an interesting one. I received an email basically out of the blue several weeks ago from Heidelberg Distribution at their Moraine location, and it just so happens that they have a 1941 Mack fire truck with a pumper that was purchased brand new by the Sharonville Fire Department. Nobody currently in that organization has any idea where they got it, how they got it, or why it's in their warehouse, and they have very graciously offered to donate that truck to us. So this ordinance is to allow us to accept that donation. It currently does not run. My suspicion is it wouldn't be worth getting it run, but I think it would just be an awesome display piece for us to have at one of our firehouses.
Are there any questions? Thank you. I think it'll be wonderful to have.
And then the last piece of legislation is Resolution 2023 R12, which is an OPWC grant request. Steve's here to talk about that.
Good evening.
This resolution is to allow allow Kleinger's to, on our behalf, submit an application to OPWC. The project we are proposing is repaving and reconstruction of Kemper Road from Chester to Chester Dale. This is the end of Kemper that did not get paved in the most recent Kemper Road paving project. It also include the rebuild of the signals at Lippelman and at Chesterdale, which are both fairly old traffic signals within the city. In speaking with Law Committee, they recommended a 70-30 funding split on this one. And the Kleinger's group pulled together a rough estimate for construction, and they recommend we ask for $1.6 million for this project. Again, this resolution is just allowing us to apply for that, and Jim signed the paper, appointing Jim as the administrative officer for that project. Any questions? Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Side conversations over here, starting to really. Okay, for my report this evening, I have several things, but the first thing I would like to do is we have somebody new in our city, so I'm going to allow Tina to introduce us.
Good evening. It's good to see you again. Before I start, I just want to give a reminder that we are currently closed at the Sharonville Branch Library for our branch refresh as part of our facility master plan, as I shared with you last month. Lots of great progress is occurring already, so I'll keep you informed along the way, including when it's time for our reopening, and we'll have a celebration for that. But tonight I'm here to introduce you to someone special. Paula Bremheger is our Ava Jane Romaine Coombe Library Director, and she's here with us tonight to share a brief update. So I'd like to introduce all of you to Paula Bremheger.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Tina has some packets for you. I'm a librarian, so I like to bring printed material everywhere I go. Thank you very much. I am Paula. I have been the director of our library here, our Cincinnati and Hamilton County Library, for just about 5 years. And Tina mentioned the facility master plan. That's a major initiative we have. I've been going out for probably 2 years to as many city and village councils as I can to personally thank you for all your support of your libraries, and also update you and meet you personally. So I can do this in 3 minutes, or I can go a little longer. Some places I go, they have a stopwatch and you're done. So you just give me a shout.
No
I can
stopwatch.
talk all night. Thank you. Okay. So the library does have 41 public locations and a distribution center. That's 42 locations. They're spread across Hamilton County. We have 16 assets in the city. The rest are in the county, like Sharonville here. We have 1 million square feet of public space. So currently, we are doing our facility master plan. We started that in 2019 after we had gone across the county and done listening sessions, heard from thousands of people who told us what they thought about the library and how we should move forward with really making sure that our spaces are welcoming for everyone. Just a little bit of context. We have libraries, buildings that are well over 100 years old. Our Walnut Hills branch was the first of our branches. It's 1906. So many of our buildings are decades old. When we started the facility master plan, the average time since one of our buildings had been built or renovated was 43 years. So we had many that were in desperate need, but we had a couple that were not actually handicap accessible. So when we started the project, we had 3 that if you could not do steps, you could not get in those buildings, and they were all over 80 years old, including 2 that were well over 100. So for 100 years, they had limited access. So we promptly went about remedying those situations. Since we started this, and this was all been supported by a 1 mil tax levy that was generously passed by our county residents in 2018, which really helped us concentrate on the capital projects. I think that everybody here probably knows during the Great Recession, many local government entities and things like public libraries had a very difficult time with our funding. So we had done deferred maintenance for years and years, which is not a great idea on any building, but if the building is 100 years old, that's particularly difficult. We actually had one of our Carnegie buildings, so many people know that, They were funded originally through Andrew Carnegie back in the turn of the century. One of those buildings in Price Hill actually suffered a catastrophic ceiling collapse, and we had to close that branch rather suddenly for 3 years. It moved to the top of our list. But that was the condition of some of our locations because we had not been able to do as much as we would have liked. Being in local government, I'm sure you can understand those conditions. So we quickly have been working through this to the best of our ability. We've done major renovations in places like Walnut Hills and Price Hill. We also did one that you may be familiar with over in Deer Park, because it's not too far from here, where at that community listening session, the folks said to us, boy, the TJ Maxx here in the Dillonvale shopping mall has been gone for some time. Have you thought about just moving down the shopping mall to the TJ Maxx? And we actually have. If you haven't been to that one, it's an impressive new facility. And say what you will about malls, but people love the parking. So that is one of our busiest locations, and it also has really served as an example how a library can be an anchor for redevelopment. So the Dillonvale Shopping Mall is active, and I believe at this point nearly all of the spots are now full, and the library sits there on the end where Tired Retail, which is places like the malls, sometimes will look for a public entity like the library, and that was a great marriage, so we're really thrilled to be there as well. Meanwhile, we've been doing things like at your own Sharonville branch, which was actually built in 1993. Now, for me, because that doesn't seem that long ago, but actually when you think about it, that's longer ago than I would care to remember, so it really was in need of a refresh. As Tina mentioned, closed a couple of weeks ago, and it will be reopening at the very latest by the end of this year. So that's an investment that we're making where we have several buildings that were built right around that same time. You may be familiar with Sims Township and Green Township, that sort of 1990s building that we did. They are being refreshed. So I'm out here just making sure that you are aware of what we are doing with your generous tax dollars. I take that very seriously. We take being good stewards of library, of tax money very seriously. We have been awarded the Auditor of State award 8 years in a row. Only 4% of entities that are audited by the state of Ohio receive that kind of recognition on a yearly basis, much less 8 times. Also of note, the library doesn't have, we don't carry debt. So if you look at other entities, particularly public libraries in Ohio, and I'm not criticizing them, but those that are large in Columbus or Cleveland or even Toledo, they have millions of dollars in debt because they have financed their building projects. We did not do that here. We build as we go, or we pay as we go. So all of the dollars that we receive, we put those back into services for the community. We're not paying debt service. I mean, you look like a genius when you do that during times when interest rates are low, but right now folks are really paying quite a bit on their debt service. We haven't done it that way, which is why we are now in the situation where we're really working on improving those buildings that we have that need that improvement. In your packet, for more information, there are several things. Again, we could go on and on, but just for context, there's the annual report. It does tell you how much people use libraries. In 2022, we had 17 million checkouts. We do continue to see an increase in in-person visits again since the pandemic. There's a chart I have that I just got and it's hanging in my office. The chart is going up and up. People are returning. June, July, and August, just of this past year, we had more than 300,000 visits at all of our buildings in each month. So nearly 1 million visits in the past couple of months there, just during the summer, to give you an idea. There's also a summary document for our facility master plan. It's actually a 3-volume set, so if you ever really want to read it all, it's there on our webpage, and it gives an assessment. You can see the other piece that we pulled out is the Northeast Planning Zone. So this is an assessment of your Sharonville branch as well as the other branches in the area and recommendations long-term and their current condition. So we have divided the county into 5 planning zones because we carry so much area and try to look at them in those zones. And finally, there's just kind of a one-pager about the library, our projects, and also a little bit of background about the library funding. We receive about 60% of our funding from the state and 40% locally through 2 levies, the one I mentioned in 2018 and one that was originally passed actually in 2009 in response to the needs and the state budget cuts during the Great Recession. We have renewed that in 2013. It expires here in 2023. So I just came out to let you know what was going on with the library, and I am happy to answer any questions. I know that Tina and her staff are fantastic, and they're always available to you, obviously. We appreciate all their work, and our staff are a major part of what the library is really all about. So we appreciate them, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
I just want to say the library is wonderful, because when I was in school, the library was at where it's now a tattoo place, but it used to be Zinniker's, and then they moved there on the corner of Creek and Reading. So when I went in it the first time, it was so great, because I remember being cramped and sitting, not much room to do stuff. So I'm real happy that we have that for our citizens.
That's great. I appreciate that, and I hope you have the same experience when you go back in. Tina was just telling me they're making great progress on that refresh, and I really think the few that we've done that from that era, they don't really look as tired as they seem, because once you go back in, you're like, wow, this is a big difference. It's been a quarter century, more than a quarter century, so that since that thing was really renovated or built. So I appreciate that very much.
Anyone else? Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you. Before I go, I just want to say one final thing. Not just as a library representative, but as a citizen of the county, I go around to all these meetings all across the county, have been doing it, and have been to more than I can imagine over the course of my several decades career. And I do like to make a special thank you as a person to all of you for your time and serving on the council. Mr. Mayor, and the President of the Council, all the council members, I know that it's not always, it's sometimes a thankless job, and you have to handle a lot of local things. I have seen many people with lots of comments. So just wanted to take a moment of privilege to honestly and heartfelt thank you. It's folks like you who really make the civic part of our system work, and I know that it is not a glorious job, but it's so important, and I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A little early. We have the Ohio Library Council Conference in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have hundreds of librarians downtown right now, and I got to get to make it rowdy after dark. Let me tell you what. So I appreciate it.
Bye. Listen, that was my first job, was working at the Sharonville Library. So I told you I'm old. I received an email today about our Princeton High School Homecoming Parade. It's October 4th. Lineup is 5:30, and we're spot number 30 if you want to take part. And Anna just asked me to try to get a soft number here so we can let them know how many would be taking part. I'm going to assume you two in the end will not be taking part unless we find you vehicles. You're going to have vehicles. Just let me know so I can let her know, and I assume we're throwing out candy and all that fun stuff. Last year, the mayor and I walked together.
Or just let Anna know, too.
Yeah, let Anna know.
By the end of the week, so we can have an idea of what to expect.
We're trying to let Ron Ballmer know. He, I think, is in charge of it this year, so we're just trying to be cognizant of that. Some of you may or may not have seen, we decided to do, and when I say we, I mean me, do a student government day. I drug Paul and I drug Casey along with me, but I'll take full diplomacy on this one. We're going to do a student government day, October 24th. And if you are available and would like to take part in the whole day, that would be wonderful. October 23rd, if you would keep your calendars available. The dinner will be at 6:30 at the Convention Center. And we'll start off here at 8 a.m. on the 24th, and it's a day-long thing if you don't know what it is. We get high school students, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students, and they come in and they see how our government runs. They get to be us that evening. So you sit behind them and you coach them on being president of council as Matthew Hardman was, and he did a fine job. He should do this someday. And that's how we get kids interested in it. I'm looking at Glenn, I'm looking at Kevin, myself. I don't know if Casey did it or not, but several of us did this program when we were in high school and took part in it. So it was always something special. So we are looking for students. You don't have to go to Princeton. You don't have to go to a high school at all. You can be homeschooled even. We want kids in Sharonville, grades 10, 11, and 12, because freshmen are a little squirrely still. And I know that from experience. So grades 10, 11, and 12. And if you want to take part in it, you can either email myself. It's out on Facebook. I think Anna was going to put it on our website. And so we're just trying to push it out there. The high school has it, and they have a letter about it. I've reached out to kids that I know don't go to Princeton and sent them the forms and letters that just so they can be a part of it also. So we're just trying to get the word out. We're looking for 12 to 15 students to be a part of this. You get to go and you get to tour the firehouse and get on the fire trucks and see that and experience that. You get to go to the police department. You get put in jail. That's always the highlight. The fire department, the police department. Nobody likes the tax department, Scott. I'm sorry, even though it's one of my favorite departments because this whole place doesn't run without those ladies over there. But nobody likes the tax department. Public Works, they get to climb in the equipment and they think they're really cool because I think one of the gators. It is really cool. Well, it is really good. So they get to go over there and experience those trucks and things like that. We go to the rec center. Sometimes that's the last thing we do, and it's because some of our kids just live at the rec center. So they probably know more about the rec center than I do. We spend the day together. They come back. They have a council meeting that evening at 7 o'clock. 7:45-ish, we'll stop that council meeting and maybe have a little snack, let everybody get pictures, and then we'll start our council meeting around 8 o'clock that night. So that's pretty much how the day runs. So we're just looking for kids. If we don't get enough kids, we won't do it. And we can't pick on seniors this year because all of the seniors did it and they probably are not interested in it. Mr. Ballmer said he had put his senior principal in charge of it, and I had to correct him. I need a sophomore principal in charge of it. So, sophomore juniors, because I don't want to miss the juniors that are there and didn't have an opportunity. So, if you have any questions about it, just get with me and we'll go through it. We'll move on. Clerk of Council, Mrs. Buhite.
No report.
Okay. Auditor, Mr. Cunningham.
All right, let's talk numbers.
Yeah. You like money.
Yeah. Helps, doesn't it?
It does.
We are 67% through the year. Our general fund has spent 56% of that. So we're under budget on that, which is a fabulous thing. 62% is encumbered, but still under. And our fire fund is actually a similar number. So spending less than what we've budgeted to spend is a good thing. Now, how does that translate into cash? You've heard me talk about this earlier in the year where we were hovering a little under where we want to be, and then we were hovering sort of right at where we want to be, and now we're hovering with the surplus, which is much needed because we do have capital projects coming up that will be using that. So that is all good. It's sort of by design. What else do I have for you? There was one transfer internally. Actually, that was an advance that we did for ARPA, for advance and payroll for ARPA, about $57,000. That's my report.
Perfect. Thank you. Does anybody have questions? Seeing none, we'll go on to our treasurer, Mr. Irie.
Thank you. Continuing on with the numbers here, the tax report has been filed with Ms. Buhite. This again is through August 31st, 2023, which means we are two-thirds of the way through the year, and our general fund has collected almost 85% of what was estimated for revenue. So we're well outpacing the estimates here at two-thirds of the way through the year. The tax receipts are up to date, year-to-date, 0.34%, and the lodging tax is up 3.15% year-to-date. So that is my report.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to our law director, Mr. Lippert.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't have anything official, but I did get the opportunity to do a ride-along a couple Saturdays ago, so big thank you to Sergeant Brenner's second shift three Saturdays ago. It was boring until it wasn't.
Okay.
So if anybody has an opportunity to do a ride-along, it'll teach you something about your city that you didn't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Residents that wish to be heard this evening, do I have any residents that want to be heard? You good back there? Go ahead. We just were talking about you. Were your ears burning? It was a good thing. It was swim team.
That's why I'm here.
Yay.
Do I have to give my name? Okay.
Yeah,
Amy
name and
Sharp,
address. I can stalk
President
you.
of the parent board for the Sharonville Shark Swim Team, 4173 Stone Creek Way. Good evening, council members. I'm here this evening to talk about, or to thank you for your support for the Sharonville Shark Swim Team. Without the support of council and the rec center, we couldn't do the fabulous things we do over at the swim pool. So this year, we had 90 families participating with the swim team, which encompassed 160 swimmers, ages 5 to 18. Our participation is up from last year. We had over 40 new swimmers this year. That's great. We had a very successful season. All our swimmers had personal records, made new friends, and we had a lot of fun. We didn't just swim. I mentioned we had a lot of fun. We went to play miniature golf at the Acres up there in Evendale, very nice facility. We had a pizza party and an ice cream social, and we had our annual splash dance. We're a very busy team. We brought back the traditional pasta party on the eve of championships this year. That was something I personally missed and facilitated that. That was super. That's a tradition if you don't know swimming or water sports. Load up on carbs and it builds up energy for the next day. We marched in the 4th on the Loop parade. Thank you for bringing it back to downtown. We also worked the food booth. I don't know if you all were aware of that. The Sharks handed out the hot dogs and provided all the chips and sodas. So this 8-week program the Recreation Department offers is one of the most successful, fun programs that they have. We had 5 amazing coaches. Our new head coach, John Bennett, a former Evendale Eagle, was everything we needed in a head coach. He was so good with the little kids and patient and very knowledgeable. This was exactly what we've been looking for quite a few years, and I think we have a keeper in him. So big things for Coach John Bennett. We are the 3rd largest team in the league. This year, championships was held at St. Bernard, and I'm happy to report that the Sharks took 3rd place in the Northern Suburban Swim League Championships. So, in 2024, the Sharonville Sharks will be hosting the NSSL Championships, July 15th and 16th. Planning has already begun. The 2-day event will bring thousands of people to our downtown and community center. And if you live in Sharonville, you already know how amazing it is. We want everyone to know how amazing it is. So we have 2 requests. we would like to invite council members to come watch a swim meet on any Tuesday or Thursday next summer, and come see our smiling faces of all our little swimmers, and see how much fun that we have. The second thing is we'd like your support now more than ever. This is a tremendous undertaking for our team. We need the support from the city, officials, and our community. Not just monetary support, but moral support. We want everyone in our community to get jazzed up for this event. This event only comes around once every 9 years. In closing, the parent board wanted to express once again their gratitude for the city's support, and we have a small token of appreciation for each council member. Thank you again. And do you have any questions or comments?
Does anyone, Mr. Lippert?
As a former Sharonville Shark, I have one question. Did we beat Evendale this year?
No.
What?
Evendale has won since 2000, right? 1999. I thought 1999 we won last. Yeah, so since
2000 to now?
Yeah, so, sorry, Casey.
A couple years before you?
You were swimming in 99.
I was swimming in 99.
So we have car magnets for each.
Oh, fun. Thank you. You can pass them down. That's fine. You're fine. Thank you for your leadership with the team. That's amazing. And Mr. Coulter, what we were talking about will involve you because you'll be setting next year's schedule. They've requested that we not have a council meeting on the 3rd Tuesday in July. That you'll do it, thanks, sweetie, that you do it the next week, the 4th. Just so we can have all you parents there supporting the kids. So Mrs. Buhide has all that information. The 15th and the 16th. You have the date. Yay! Very fun. Thank you.
Amy, I'd like to say keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been president for 5 years, and while it eats up my entire summer, I don't think I'd have it any other way. I do enjoy it, and our families are amazing. We have such great families in volunteering and willing to pitch in wherever there's a need. So I normally never have to ask more than once for help. So we really have great families in Sharonville.
Good. Thank you. Hey! Come on down, sir.
Jim Schmidt, 12215 Pickwick Place. I just have a question. I heard on the news where the Hamilton County Commissioners are considering raising the motel tax. Does that affect, if that goes through, does that affect Sharonville also?
So yes, it does. So yes, it affects all of Hamilton County. Actually, what has taken place thus far is that the state of Ohio has given the county permission to raise. So what exists now is there's a 3% county tax, lodging tax, that goes directly to the Greater Cincinnati Convention and Visitors Bureau for the purposes of marketing around the city. This legislation allows that to be increased by an additional 1% throughout the whole county, with that 1% being pledged to the renovation of the Duke Energy Center, amongst other things. As part of that, I was very actively involved. I'm a member of the Convention Facilities Authority here in Hamilton County. We currently have all of the lodging tax that is not our personal lodging tax for the city of Sharonville goes into a bucket that is controlled by the CFA. And there's cooperative agreements that include both the county, city of Cincinnati, city of Sharonville enjoys one of those cooperative agreements because we receive that's a funding source for the expansion that we did of our convention center and now the current renovation that we're doing. So we were very actively involved in working with our state legislators based on the request that was being asked to be put in the budget to make that happen. That has created a funding model to allow the city of Cincinnati to prepare a renovation of the Duke Energy Center that would get them about $200 million worth of renovation there. Maintain the donation that is being made to us. In fact, we become number $1 out the door, which actually puts us in a better position than we are currently with our $1.3 million that we receive. But more importantly, after that money comes in, assuming the county does this and goes forward and votes to increase the lodging tax by another 1%, the funding model allows there to be additional funds that would ultimately be able to be used for the northern communities, because our northern communities bring in a lot of dollars into our lodging tax, which I think sometimes our friends to the south don't recognize, and we kind of had to share with them in these negotiations over the last couple of months how much we make. Basically 40% of the county lodging tax comes from outside the city of Cincinnati. And so when the city of Cincinnati wants to make these big investments, they want to eat up 90–95% of the lodging tax, even though only 55–60% of it's coming from their hotels. So there needs to be voices at the table to protect that, and that's what we tried to do. Now, at the same time, it's very important for us as a suburban city that's connected to our downtown to make sure that that is flourishing and that there are opportunities for large conventions to come into our area. We get great benefit from that, even though we're 15 miles north of the city of Cincinnati. We as a region certainly share in the riches that come from inviting people into our region. So we've been very good partners over the years. I think there's some stumbling blocks currently going on amongst the county from what I understand. But I think ultimately this is a good plan. It's a good plan for our region. And I think it's a good plan for us here in Sharonville. We've worked with, the other piece of that puzzle that we worked on over the last couple of months is the amount of marketing and commitment we've gotten from the Greater Cincinnati Convention. Well, they call it Visit Cincy now, but the Cincinnati Convention and Visitors Bureau. And so we've gotten some commitments from them to do some things they promised to do for us 15 years ago that didn't really happen. But we've gotten some commitments, and we've already seen some of those happen now. For example, setting room night goals for our northern properties as far as the kind of business they're helping to bring into our convention center, which we're going to be looking to do now that we are doubling the size of our exhibit hall, which we're hoping will be complete by the end of October. And we're super excited about that. But there's some great opportunities for us. But yes, so the simple answer to your question, even though that was much long, yes, if the county does it, it would impact all of our hotel properties. My understanding is that the Greater Cincinnati Lodging Association was actively involved in the negotiations and the conversation. They recognize the importance of the renovation of our convention center, and more importantly, the need for a headquarter hotel that would have some access and attachment to the Duke Energy Center, because that's been the biggest bane of our southern neighbors' convention center woes, is the inability to have a hotel, a headquarter hotel that can house enough people in order to have a big convention. Because when these big conventions come into town, they want one place where they can put all their people up. And because of a lackluster Millennium Hotel, which is now torn down, but when it existed, it was not a place people could put folks in to stay the night on a regular basis. They had to create patchworks of different hotels throughout downtown, and that was not appetizing for the convention planners out there, and so that's why we weren't attracting some of our bigger folks. So that's another piece of that puzzle that is also being explored. hopefully they're building both at the same time. The other benefit we're going to see from Sharonville if they move forward with this plan is their intent is to shut down the Duke Energy Center for 18 months. They don't believe, they believe that's in their best interest, and to make this $200 million investment is to not try to do it in phases and piecemeal it and do some things in here and there, but to basically close the facility down for an 18-month period to do all their renovation, which means that some of their events that we can house here in Sharonville, we've already been in active negotiations with them to bring some of those. What we're talking about mostly are some of the folks that were in their big ballroom, which would now be able to use our exhibit hall space in order to have their large events from that standpoint. We're not going to bring in some of their obviously big exhibit hall because we don't have that size of an exhibit hall, but we'll be able to bring in some of those annual type dinners, those kind of things, up to our convention center. So we've already actually started. I think we've already got a couple of contracts in place to help in that way. And hey, maybe they might see what a benefit we are with free parking and easy access to the highway, and what a great facility we have and how it's managed, that they'll stick around even after the Duke Energy Center is done. And we're not competing with them. It's just like, and basically the Duke Energy Center might enjoy having the ability to book other folks into their facility with their renovated and expanded, slightly expanded, not much, but mostly it's a renovated exhibit center or convention center that we'll have down there. So it's exciting time for us here as a region. It's super excited time for us as a convention center and what we have and how we've been a part of that conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move on to our council committees. And as I look down here, I just want to say welcome back, Mr. Tankersley. Glad everything went well. Good to see you. Community Development, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, the next meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals will be at 6:30 on October the 11th, followed immediately by the meeting of the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And if I could just take a minute here, I'd like to really commend the people on those two groups, because they've had some challenging events before them, and they've handled them very well. They've been great listeners. They've been very patient listeners, and they have done a good job of trying to find the greater good in the decisions they make. So I'm just have a shout out to those two groups.
Good. Thank you. Community Services, Mr. Lovett.
Thank you. No report this evening. Our next meeting will be at 4 p.m. on October 4th, Wednesday, October 4th.
Okay.
All are welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Budget and Finance and Project Oversight, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. No report for both committees. Our next scheduled Budget and Finance meeting is 6 p.m. on October 10th in the Administrative Conference Room. And there's a caveat to that. I get with the Budget and Finance Committee, and we're looking at probably trying to combine it with a Project Oversight and see if that's possible. Okay. If not, we'll look at another date. There's not much budget finance to do, but there's more Project Oversight. And since some of the committee members overlap, I'll look into that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honored citizens, Mrs. Knight.
Yes, tonight I'm honoring all our Sharonville veterans. This Saturday, we are honoring them at a breakfast to say thank you for their service. It'll be at the Convention Center at 9 o'clock, I believe. A lot of them have already signed up for it, but it'll be great to see them. Thank you.
I think I heard a number of 70, Mr. Lucas. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Law and Public Safety, Mr. Schmidt.
Yes, thank you. The next meeting of the Law and Public Safety Committee meeting will be October 3rd, Tuesday, 4 o'clock, Administrative Conference Room. Thank you.
Thank you. Rule suspension motion, first and only reading with immediate effectivity for ordinances 2023-60E and resolution 2023-R12E. Second and third reading with immediate effectivity for ordinance 2023-55 and 2023-57. Is there a motion? So moved by Mr. Wilson, second by Mr. Lovett. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
All those opposed, no, and that stands. Unfinished business.
This is the second and third reading of ordinance 2023-55, amending 2023 appropriations for various funds and authorizing advances of funds.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-55? So moved by Mrs. Knight, second by Mr. Cook. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-55 has been approved. Second reading of emergency ordinance 2023-56E, directing the filing of petitions to appropriate various fee simple interests with reservation of access, standard highway easements, and temporary easements as a quick take for the public purpose of improving U.S. Route 42, a public roadway open to the public without charge in the city of Sharonville, Hamilton County, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. And this is a second and third reading of ordinance 2023-57E, amending 2023 appropriations for the 401 Capital Fund and authorizing the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract for flock safety cameras.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-57? So moved by Mr. Schmidt, second by Mr. Lovett. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-57E has been approved. And that is it for unfinished.
And we'll go for new business.
All right. First reading of emergency ordinance 2023-58, amending the penalty for short-term rental violations. First reading of ordinance 2023-59, authorizing the disposal of surplus equipment. First and only reading of emergency ordinance 2023-60E, authorizing the donation of a vintage fire truck previously owned by the city of Sharonville and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2023-60E? So moved by Mr. Tankersley, second by Mr. Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Emergency ordinance 2023-60E has been approved. First and only reading of resolution 2023-R12E, resolution to appoint a chief executive officer, a chief financial officer, and project manager to submit a state capital improvement program application to the State District Public Works Integrating Committee and authorizing the execution of an agreement with the Ohio Public Works Commission for Kemper Road improvements and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to pass resolution 2023-R12E? So moved by Mr. Lovett, second by Mrs. Knight. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Tankersley?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Coulter?
Yes.
Mr. Levitt?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mrs. Knight?
Yes.
And Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-R12E has been approved.
Again, for residents that wish to be heard this evening, are there any other matters that wish to be heard this evening? Anyone on council have anything? Okay, Mr. Tankersley.
First of all, I'm glad to be back. Thank you, everyone, for welcoming me back. I want to thank you for the fruit that I received that was rather well and tasted good. Again, I just want to thank everybody that gave me phone calls. I really appreciated them. And again, I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing nothing, is there a motion for adjournment? So moved by Mr. Tankersley. We missed him last time. Second by Mr. Lovett. We did miss you. Are there any discussions? All those in favor, yes? Those opposed, no, and we do stand.